walked away from the game, you came back to the game, and I don't quite know the reasons, but there are a couple of stories that when you left, and this is a fact or fiction question, you pitched up at one of your old club's five-a-side games and played and scored a bunch of goals, and there were crowds. A lot of people don't know if it's fact or fiction. Can you tell us what actually happened?
Yeah, it's true. It did happen. It wasn't an old club of mine. It was just the school where my children go to. One of the teachers, actually my daughter's teacher,
Right.
plays in a five-a-side team on a Thursday night, and he'd been asking me for years to come and have a game, and I hadn't played for a while, and I agreed to, and I had a game on a Thursday night. Yeah, scored a few goals as well. There was no crowds there. I can assure you of that. No, there was maybe a man and his dog or something, but no, there was no crowds. That's the story behind that one.
So it's true. We can stamp that one as true.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
All right. You've been to South Africa a couple of times on these kind of tours. Just your thoughts on the standard of South African football. Has it improved over the years since you've been coming here on pre-season tours? Your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I've only been on one tour before, which was 4 years ago, and the quality of football that we played then was very good. Obviously, since then you don't see too much of South African football back in England, but I'm not too sure the national team had done either. I don't think they qualified for the African nations at the World Cup, which was surprising really from being here 4 years ago.
Thanks for pointing that out. That's great.
It was surprising because, like I say, 4 years ago I think we played Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs, and two very difficult games.
Right.
Some really good technical footballers, and we came here the other night and we played this team for the first time. We hadn't even heard of this team before, and again there's some quality footballers, and I'm sure the Ajax team we're going to play on Saturday will be more of the same, really.
Fantastic. Players like yourself, Cantona, Bergkamp, make it look very easy, and a lot of people assume that you see the game differently to other players, that it happens in slow motion in your head, and that's why it looks like everything's so much slower. Just give us some insight into, when you're on the pitch, why does it look so easy, and it always looks like you're so unrushed when on the ball, when you're playing in a league that's 1,000,000 miles an hour?
I'm not too sure, probably maybe because I am slow. I don't know, it's just something that maybe I've been born with, was the ability just to relax and be in the right place at the right time on the pitch, to be in the space that I create for myself. And like I said, I'm not the quickest of players, so I need to have some other kind of ability, and thankfully I've been born with a bit of ability to be able to pass the ball, and just to be able to show a bit of patience and a bit of comfort on the ball.
Do you see things quickly? Do options open up very quickly to you as the ball comes to you?
Yeah, that was always something as a grown up that I should always be aware on the football pitch. We had a coach called Eric Harrison when we were in the youth team from like 16 to 18, and he was always telling us to be aware, always know where you are on the football pitch, and probably plan 2 or 3 passes ahead of you, really, so when the ball comes to you, you know instantly where it's going.
All right. I mean, you've written your name up amongst some of the greats you've played in Europe. You've played with Ronaldo and against Messi. Your thoughts on what sets them apart as footballers currently in the game?
Just their ability. I think the two of them are streets ahead of any other footballers in the world. When you look at the seasons they've had the last 2 or 3 seasons, they're scoring 50, 60 goals regularly, and it's something that maybe kids do in the playground. It's just a frightening amount of ability they've got, and they're doing it on the biggest stage as well. They're doing it in the Spanish league, they're doing it in the Champions League. Ronaldo recently just did it in the European Championship as well. The quality they have is scary, and like I said, the 2 best in the world. And I played with Ronaldo, and I witnessed that firsthand. And it's not just luck. It's not just a fluke. He puts all the hard work into his training to produce what he does on the weekend, and I'm sure Messi's the same as well.
Sure. Another fact or fiction, there's a story that Ronaldo showed you a couple of juggling tricks at training once, and he asked you to do it, and instead you pointed out a tree or a pole 50 yards away and hit it, sort of driving a ball. Anything like that ever happen?
No, that's not true.
Complete fiction.
Not true. No, he was always doing his tricks, and before games especially, it was good to watch him. He was taking a mickey with the ball. He was kissing the ball and doing all kinds of stuff with it. But no, I could never do anything like that.
When you see those tricks on the training pitch at United, do the players get stuck into you, the guys who have got the ability on the ball? In a five-a-side at a United training session, for instance?
What, do we get stuck into them? Yeah. Well, yeah, you do sometimes. It depends what school your game is, I suppose. It's, if there's someone messing about on the ball trying to take the mickey out of you, then sometimes they have to get tackled. That's what it is.
In an age where players are multi-millionaires, how does Sir Alex Ferguson continue to demand so much respect, not from the youngsters who come in and I would imagine are fearful even, but also from the senior journeymen who continue to show him so much respect in the change room, on the field, in the media, etc.?
Well, I think the motivation's there for all of us. Just being Manchester United players, the money you get for it's irrelevant. It's not in any of our minds, I don't think. The only thing we want to do is perform for this club, and when it comes down to it, win trophies. That's ultimately what it's about. That's what the manager wants us to do, and that's what we want to do ourselves.
A lot of the Barca players have said, and when you retired, there were a lot of comments that came out in tributes, but a lot of them said you could quite easily fit into their team, as have other players said they would love you to play in their side. Were you ever tempted to play in Spain or elsewhere in Europe where your style of play would have thrived?
No, not really. There was never a need to. It's very flattering that these, especially the Spanish players, say something like that. But I was at Manchester United, probably the biggest club in the world, and it was where I lived. It was where I was from. There was no need to ever look anywhere else. The only way I might have thought about it was if the club didn't want me, and thankfully that never happened.
Your thoughts on Steven Pienaar as a footballer who has a similar job to yourself in terms of making the team play, making the team tick, a creative force, always wanting to be on the ball. Just your thoughts of him as a footballer? Yeah,
he's a really top player. We've come up against him quite a few times, and to be honest, he has given us a difficult time. Like I say, he is very, very good on the ball. He's very creative, and he's somebody that you need to get a grip off. I think we found that against Everton towards the end of the season. He was instrumental really in their comeback, and that was disappointing for us. But Steven's a top player. Maybe his move to Tottenham didn't work out for one reason or I don't know, but he seems happy at Everton, and whenever we play against him, we know he's a player we have to keep an eye on.
Manchester City, did they surprise you last season? A lot of big clubs buy big names, but were you surprised that they were able to pull together and do as well as they did, and would you see them as your main contenders in the new campaign?
No, I wasn't surprised, because they spent a lot of money on quality players, and if you've got that many good players, and eventually you're going to win something and you're going to do well. I think the forwards in particular were fantastic. Yaya Toure was very good as well, and they deserve to win the league this year. Yeah, whoever wins the league the next year after are always going to be up there and abouts, and I think it's up to us now to get our challenge ready and make sure we're ready for next season, and hopefully we can turn the tables.
Okay. Your initial comments on your new Japanese signing, Kagawa. How do you think he'll fit into the team? Some players take a while to gel. What are your initial thoughts of him?
Well, he's only been with us a week, and on the evidence of what we've seen in training, he's a top player. I think he's already proven that in Germany. Over the last 2 seasons, I think he was Player of the Year in Germany last year. So that says a lot, because Germany's a really good league, a top league in Europe. And I think it'd be great for us. Like I say, just from what I've seen in training, I expect him to score goals for us and be making goals as well. Very much a playmaker. He looks a hard-working player as well. So he's come in. He's been great. worked as hard as a Manchester United player should do, and I'm sure there's a bright future ahead for him.
Another left-sided player who played with your South African, Quinton Fortune, as a player. What did you think of him coming through? And he's Cape Town and South Africa's big connection to Man United, if you will. Just your thoughts on Quinton.
Yeah, Quinton's a top player as well. He did suffer with a lot of injuries, which is unfortunate for him. But I love playing football with Quinton. He was a strong player, very physical. He could run up and down all day, get against people. He can really barge people off the ball. But not just that, he had quality on the ball as well. He had a really nice left foot, and it's just a shame that injuries, got the better of him in the end, really.
The Manchester derby, as players from different nationalities start to populate the teams, more specifically, I would say City, people are starting to question, does it mean as much to the guys on the field as it does to the guys off the field?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, massively still. It's I think any derby in the world's a big derby, but now especially more than ever with City winning the league last year, I think it will be the biggest two games of the season, and we hope that we have two better results than we did last year.
We see a lot of your younger players come on these kind of tours. We see your academy in action, if you will. Young players coming through at the moment, is there anyone that we need to be excited about? Is there anyone that you're excited about? And are these tours good building blocks for them to step into the first team squad?
Yeah, well, I think this tour especially, it's been a great chance for the young players to come on it. With the European Championships, the players who've been still on this tour, still aren't back for training. So it's been an ideal opportunity for people like Jess Lingard, who played his first game for the first team of the night and played really well. David Petrucci, Ryan Tunnicliffe, Scott Wotton played centre half, Robbie Brady left back, Freddie was right back, and they're all good players. I witnessed it last year with, when I retired, I did work a little bit with the reserve team, and I saw the potential in them, and they're still only 18, 19, so they've still got time, and I'm convinced that quite a few of them will be top players with time to come.
When you were coming through with a very talented bunch of youngsters that broke into the team at the same time, and since then, any piece of advice that has stuck out that came from one of the senior players or from the gaffer that has stood you in good stead over the years?
Probably just the most obvious one was to always work as hard as you possibly can. I think we had that embedded into us from being 15, 16 when we first came to the club, right from, like I mentioned before, Eric Harrison, the youth team coach. He used to make us come back in the afternoons, always practicing, always work as hard as you possibly can, and I think that goes right through the team. And we're lucky enough, we've got a load of players with ability. As long as they work hard, the ability will shine through.
Brilliant. Best player that you've played against in a Man United shirt?
Patrick Vieira. That was always, a lot of people have asked me that, and I say him all the time. Just he was, he's a tough player. Always box to box. He was so big as well. You just, long legs. You just couldn't get past him or anything. He was just awkward to play.
Could you name some of the best players that you've played with at United since your time there? Two or three that maybe stand out for you, and why they stand out?
Yeah, there's so many. If it had to be two or three, then Ryan Giggs would be first. As everybody knows, an unbelievable player, and still to be doing it at his age as well is amazing. I witness it every day. He's so much ability. He's an athlete, but he can play unbelievable football as well. And whether it's left wing, centre midfield, centre forward, he can play anywhere. Roy Keane as well was another one. Amazing ability. Probably didn't get the credit he deserved for the ability he had on the ball, for his football ability. Everyone seems to think he was just an hard man, but he was far more than that, and he was a great leader for the team as well. I could probably name 10, 20 people. I love playing with centre forwards: Terry Sheringham, Dwight York, Andy Cole, Ruud van Nistelrooy. The list could go on, it's endless really.
What do the so-called old guard of more experienced players bring to the Manchester United dressing room? In what way do they keep the team together? I guess you've got a more experienced bunch and a younger bunch coming through now.
Yeah, well, it's quite easy really. The lads are good lads anyway. There isn't many trouble causes, if any trouble causes among them, so it's quite easy for the older lads who probably just on the football side would just like to bring a relaxed nature when maybe things are hotting up and it's getting towards the time of year when you really need to win games, so your semi-finals and you're going for the league titles. It's always nice, I suppose, for the young players to look to us, and hopefully we can be a relaxed figure for them to look at.
Just 2 or 3 more, yeah. For you personally, what was more special, winning the Premier League or the UEFA Champions League?
I couldn't separate them, I don't think. I think winning the league in your own country, it's something you set out to do right from the start of the season. We think that's the biggest trophy, and the Champions League is massive as well. But I think you see that more of a bonus really, if you're going to win that, because you have to have a lot of luck to win that. There's the best teams in Europe are in your Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, so it's always going to be more difficult. So I don't know. I'd probably say the Premier League.
For you personally, what's the best goal, the most important goal you've scored for Manchester United?
The most important would have to be the Barcelona, in the semi-final of the Champions League. It was very tight between the two teams, and as it turned out, it only took one goal to separate us. I was lucky enough to score that. It wasn't the greatest goal I'd ever scored, but yeah, like I said, it's probably the most important.
Right. And then, in an age where players often move across Europe and the world, what has made you commit to Manchester United for so long, even at the peak of your career?
Because it's the biggest club in the world. I'm very lucky to have had the chance to play for them. I'm from Manchester anyway, so I'm half an hour down the road from the training ground. It's my hometown, and they've never wanted to get rid of me, and that's why I've always stayed.